Before we jump into this video, I want you to leave a comment, give a stat, an opinion, a fact, some sort of argument that you like to make when it comes to debating gun politics, and then maybe we'll have a conversation after the video whether or not you still think that that's an excellent argument, or maybe if there's a way that you can word it in a better way to get your point across. Let's get into it. If one more YouTube video gets recommended to me of a thumbnail of Ben Shapiro with the title that says Ben Shapiro totally wrecks libtards, or liberals absolutely owned, left-wing destroyed, totally owned these libs, I'm gonna figure out whoever is in charge of YouTube, the entirety of it, and I'm gonna shut it down, because I am so tired of seeing these videos that are just based entirely around owning libs. And today I want to talk about why I think owning libs is dumb and your argument is bad. Now, before I get into this, I want to clarify, I am just absolutely pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment. But I think we need to kind of take a step back and think about, why are we having these discussions? Why are we having these arguments? Why am I making the points that I'm making to the people that I'm making them? When you look at what the purpose of an argument is, or when you think about what the purpose of a debate is, at the very least, you can probably agree with me when I say that the goal is either to have someone agree with you, have someone understand your point of view, or have someone maybe realize something that they hadn't realized before. In some way, shape, or form, I feel like that's the purpose of a debate and the purpose of having a discussion. If you disagree that the point of a debate is one of those things that I said, feel free to just click away. Video is not for you. I don't know how I'm going to get to you, but I'll figure it out later. So if you do agree that the purpose of a debate or a discussion is to have someone agree with or see your side of things in some sort of way, shape, or form, doesn't matter how severe, let's talk about that. When you use argument tactics like Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson and those guys, they use very argumentative and polarizing topics in order to stir up drama. They're not actually looking to have a conversation. They're looking to make you look dumb. They're looking to have someone feel worse about themselves. They want to win. They don't want to come to terms or show people their side. What they want to do is make someone feel bad. When someone walks away from a conversation that you're having and your goal was to have them agree with you in some way, shape, or form, if at the end of the day all you did was make them feel bad, they're not going to agree with you. They're going to associate everything that you said in a negative light and disagree with it even stronger. So really, I think when you look at it, and if you're using these weird argumentative fallacies like Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson and all those guys, you're going to see that they use entrapment techniques, and they're using fallacies that cause people to slip up, to stutter. They go into a situation much more prepared than the other person. They call them over to them, as opposed to them being the liberal being ready for the conversation. They call them out on the street, say, hey, you, come represent the entirety of an entire class of people. And it just makes them look dumb, and it's disingenuous to what the true purpose of a debate is. I don't know if anything that I just said was English in that last sentence, but moving past it. When all you're trying to do is make someone feel bad about themselves, you're not going to get them to actually look and understand what your conversation is supposed to be about, what your point is. So I've kind of talked about why I think the goal of owning libs is bad, and why I think those kind of argumentation tactics are bad, and why it's important to not use those. So let's talk about how I think we can better improve our conversational skills, how we can better talk to other people, and how we can better get our point across to them. So when it comes to having a good conversation, it's important to understand that the person that you're speaking to is a real person. They have their opinions, they have their facts and their opinions are going to dictate how they feel about things and how they choose to act on those things. So it takes a little bit of work, but you're going to want to do your best to understand where it is that they're coming from, because they might have a different set of experience, facts, knowledge, and education, and yours might be different, which has led you both to have different opinions on things. So if you can understand where it is that they learned, what it is that they know, and maybe fill in some gaps, because they might be seeing something. And for most people, when you think about guns, most people, they're going to see guns in one way, on the media when someone does something horrible. And I think it's up to us to show them the other side of it, which is the massive side. if you were to think about a 20-sided die, 19 of those sides of the die are good, great gun owners. Maybe even 19.99% of the die, and we're only working with one tip corner. And the only way to find that one bad gun owner is to have a dice land face up on one corner. But when all they've ever seen is the bad side of things, it's hard for them to make that decision on their own to think guns are good. So it's up to us to show them what it means to be a gun owner. I think that's very important in changing the debate, changing the conversation. So being a good, responsible person and setting a good example is going to be huge. So when you can have a conversation with someone in a respectful manner, it's going to do way better to get them to think like us and to agree with us than going in with argumentation tactics and calling someone stupid. I think a big thing that a lot of people have issues with, and this is just natural because social media, text, email, Facebook, that kind of thing, there's no person in front of you when you're having that conversation. You're having conversations with just lines of text. And when you lack that, it's very easy for people to get things misconstrued, take things wrong, get upset. And when you get someone upset, it's very hard to bring them back in and get them to agree with you because now you've insulted them. You've made them pissed off. They're upset. They're angry. Why would they want to listen to you? So I think it's important to understand the context of the communication and how you can better utilize that to get your point across. Now, I think also there are certain types of arguments that are easy to make and that are good and that are more likely to actually get people to agree with you. I think that there's a lot of arguments and stats and nomenclatures that gun people bring up that I agree with and is a factual statement. However, if the goal is to get someone to agree with you, that's not exactly maybe the right thing to say in a situation where you're trying to have a debate with someone. So you look at a situation like the whole assault weapon, assault rifle, and modern sporting rifle semantics. This is an argument that I think holds zero water. I agree that an assault weapon is a made-up term back in the 90s. However, assault rifle does have a definition, and that is a select fire rifle of an intermediate caliber. So like ARs, AKs, things smaller than .308, bigger than 9mm and other pistol rounds. I'm not sure the exact definition, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, you can correct someone and say, hey, that thing that you're referring to as an assault weapon or assault rifle isn't actually what you might think it is. Here's what it actually is. And it's important to maybe have that conversation, but you don't want to fixate on it. You don't want to spend 10 minutes to someone talking about the nuances of the difference between what an assault weapon definition is and what an assault rifle definition is and what a modern sporting rifle is. And when you say, oh, the AR-15 has never been used in combat, yes, that's true. An AR-15 as a semi-auto centerfire rifle has probably never been used in actual war combat with the US forces. However, saying that might be a little bit different than saying the M16 is the select fire or full auto version of the California or the United States version of that gun. So you can have that same argument in a way that is more conducive to getting them to understand. Because when you say, oh, the AR-15's never been used in the war, they're going to be like, that's bullshit. It's technically true, and a technical truth is still the truth. However, a better way to kind of get that point across might be that US citizens have this type of gun, the military has this. And while I disagree with the concept of us not being able to have those guns, that's not the argument you're trying to make right now. You're trying to get them to agree one step at a time, coax them over, get them to understand some fact. A lot of people will tend to spend a lot of time focusing on, oh, more people have been trampled to death than actually shot with rifles of any kind. That's typically a stat year by year, pretty consistent. However, I think there's better stats to argue. I think that a better way to word that might be, oh, with 30,000 people dying to firearms every year, 66% of them every single year are suicide. How do we maybe focus on that? 80% of those are handguns. How do we focus on that? A lot of those are gang related. How do we stop gang activity? How do we focus on the war on drugs that most likely leads into gang activity? How do we focus on these other issues? So it's better to give them more context and show them, hey, here, let's come together. Let's maybe solve these things and work on it from there. I realize that I've kind of rambled, but I kind of just wanted to help people maybe think about how they can better argue or better debate to get people to agree with them. Because at the end of the day, if you totally wreck that liberal or own those libs, you're not actually doing yourself any service. You're actually making it worse. And I think it's important to understand that. And I think it's important to have better communication tactics with people, have honest communication, and just be a better person. At the end of the day, people that disagree with you aren't bad people. They just have a different opinion. And maybe you can show them your experience, your knowledge, your education, your background, and have them come over and say, hey, that is a good point. Let's continue this conversation. Anyway, I've been kind of rambling, and I'm just going to cut it off here, I think. This has been something that I've been thinking about for a while now. Maybe not the most well-executed video, but I think it's important, especially with the holidays this time of year. You're going to be having a lot of conversations with family members that maybe don't agree with you. And I'd love to hear you guys, if you have any opinions, have any stats that you want to talk about that you think are good arguments to make, let's hear them in the comments. Have a good day. I totally just now at the end of recording this realized that I look like the typical Virgin versus Chad meme. How about that, right? So